but there are people who live in chaos. And some of you, I'm sure, know people like this. Everything is a tragedy. Everything is always falling apart around them. They're always having to lean on people and pull on people. And I'm sure you know people. I know a lot of people like this because they don't learn how to deal with that chaos of their minds. And so it's important to figure those things out. And if only there was a class that offered something like that, taught you how to, I don't know, how to fix yourself and how to aim yourself properly at the dreams that you're pursuing and how to control those emotions and make them productive in some way. I don't know. Maybe if that class even studies some art, that'd be even better. But maybe someday we'll create that class. One day, a man can dream. I'm trying to figure these things out because there's a lot of like cliches being thrown out. Like, there's problems. And then we live and go, yeah, there's problems in life. And then, but then it's interesting because then I think you are right, by the way, that we're correlating chaos with problems. So then what's the opposite of chaos, I said? Order. And isn't that funny? What have we been saying since the very beginning of the semester? Put your life in order. What's the antidote to the problems of your life? If we do see it this way, and I think you are right about that, but I want us to be able to articulate, I see chaos as problems. That's why I'm referring to problems. So then so that if we see that the biggest problems of our lives are caused by the chaos of our lives, well then what do? We got to put our lives in order. And how do we do that? And those are the things that we've been looking at all semester. I think it's funny when I see these things on Instagram when I talk about that. Like, you know, in high school I learned how to find metaphors, but I didn't learn how to balance a checkbook or how to read a rental agreement or how to pay taxes. It's like, yeah, you did learn those things if you just paid attention to it. But you learned so much more if you were paying attention to it. Again, the first couple of things that we looked at, in fact, the whole semester so far, but especially the first couple of things that we looked at. Fix yourself. Why? Because the problems of our lives are caused by the chaos and disorder of our lives. That's exactly what he's talking about in that first article, isn't he? And then the very next one, don't follow your passions. Why? Because that's the thing that causes uncertainty in life. That's the thing that causes chaos and problems in our lives when we're pursuing the almost unattainable, and we sacrifice a good part of the stability of our lives to pursue the chaotic aspect of our life, the chaotic desires of our lives. And then when we follow up with right after that, Stoicism, meditations, the handbook, the ingredient. What's the point of this? Well, now you figure out that the chaos of your life is caused by the problems that you can't control. Then what do? Therefore, you take complete control of the things of your life that you can control, and you put your life in order. You figure out what your values are. The 4 Stoic virtues, for example. How is it you apply those to every situation of your life? And all of that comes through this lens of how to think. How do we process these things that we're encountering? And yet we'll still have people say, yeah, but I never learned how to read a rental agreement or how to pay taxes. It's like you've learned, if you actually did the work, you have had the opportunity to learn way more than just something as silly as how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, which is all that paying your taxes is. How to read a basic sentence, which is all that paying your taxes is. Because the problems of our lives are caused by the chaos of our lives, and you're right about that. And that's, by the way, one of the things that makes life so much fun. You have chaos, and you go home and you go back and you tell the stories about that. If I asked you guys, so how was your break? Some of you are like, oh, it was okay. What'd you do? Nothing. Did you overthrow a South American country? No. I don't know, did you plan a bombing? No. You know, what'd you do? Just sat home, watched TV. And then that's very ordered, but there's also something that tells us, but I feel like there's more to it than just that. Not that you should overthrow South American countries or plan bombings, but you should do something perhaps that causes you to have a little bit of uncertainty in your life. And it's true, those are the things that we have to overcome, because too much certainty creates stagnation. So what kind of uncertainty do you create? The best kind. The kind that you can control. The stuff that's within your control. And then from that, you learn how to control the things that you learn how to control yourself in the areas that are outside of your control. if that makes sense. Yeah. That is what he's getting at, by the way. It's exactly what he's getting at. If you're going to create something, what do you, I mean, like, for example, why would you create, I think I mentioned before, I was just listening to an old video, why does Elon Musk create SpaceX? Anybody know? He's got one goal with SpaceX. He wants to get us off of the planet. Why would Elon Musk want us to get off of Earth, or to be able to? Because it seems like every once in a while, a giant asteroid hits the Earth and wipes out all life here. So what is Elon Musk trying to do? He's trying to give us options so that humanity can survive in case we see one of these things headed our way. So that if it's headed our way, it isn't all of us sitting around and saying, well, we got 6 months, or even if we got 2 years, let's see if we can create these massive infrastructures and starships to get us off of this planet if necessary. 2 years is never going to happen. So when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. Yeah, second best time is today. And so the whole point of him starting, by the way, anybody know how Elon Musk made his money initially? He invented PayPal. Well, he helped invent PayPal. He then sold PayPal because figuring out a way for people to do e-commerce wasn't the goal of his life. The goal of his life ultimately was to save humanity. So he starts off with PayPal. Why? Because it was a great idea where you can make a bunch of money. The idea was you sell that off, not so he could buy a Ferrari, but so that he could invest in Tesla, create Tesla. And why do you want to create Tesla? To try to save the planet while we're here, to create electric cars so that there'd be fewer carbon emissions. And then the whole point of Tesla, by the way, was to make a whole bunch of money. Why? Because the ultimate goal for him is to save humanity if necessary. And what's funny is he's the only person doing it. I mean, I shouldn't say that because obviously he has engineers and all that stuff working for him, but he was the first guy doing this. So what is it that kicks off this internet commerce, revolution, really? It's a guy who wants to get us off of this planet in case an asteroid is headed here. So he invents PayPal. Now, the only reason he creates PayPal, by the way, is because there's a need. We only create things that there's a need for. Like, for example, why do we create a car? Well, because we had to travel long distances. If there was no long distances, then there would be no need to create cars. If the universe was a completely ordered place and there was no need to leave the planet, we would never create SpaceX. The only things that cause us to actually create are those little the massive problems in the case of an asteroid headed our way. What is it that causes us to create art? It's the problems, it's that chaos within ourselves, our own minds, those conflicts that we're trying to work out. And it's interesting, that's why we connect so much with art. Because, I don't know, man, does anybody in here not go through some kind of chaos in your mind? Chaos in your heart, chaos in your psychology, chaos in your emotions? Everybody has some level of chaos to a certain degree. Even psychopaths have chaos to a certain degree. The question now is going to be, what do you do with the chaos? There are some people I know who have chaos and they completely melt down. And they just sit in a corner and start to fidget and rock. And I'm saying that because I have literally seen that on a floor. I go into a room and someone's just rocking around there and they're panicking because they have chaos in their mind. And I see some people who have chaos in their mind and you would never even know it. Some of you have chaos in your minds and you think nobody else notices. I see you. It's always in the eyes, man. It's always in the mannerisms. And I hope that you find a way to work that out, because the truth is most people do. Hopefully in some kind of a productive way. It'd be great to see a painting of yours someday. I have paintings on my wall over there from students who are working out chaos in their minds. Maybe it's going to be through a work of art, hopefully. Hopefully it's not going to be something destructive. Certainly not to others, but also not to yourself. And there are some artists who do both. They cut off their ears because of the chaos in their mind. And then they make a great painting. They even paint themselves that way. And if you know, you know. And so the chaos of our minds is all there, but the question is, how do you bring it into order? Because like with music, there's 12 notes? And they're out there in the ether. They're out there in chaos. What does the musician do? Takes those notes and creates order out of them. Makes chords out of them. Takes those chords, makes a song out of them. Probably multiple instruments. Bless you. takes all that chaos and puts it into order, and then they go on stage. And then you see that chaos get unleashed. And if you're in the audience, you join in that chaos en masse. You're standing there and you see somebody and they're playing their instruments, and everybody around us is behaving in ways that we never normally would in most society. But for some reason, within the confines of this wall, this concert hall, this club, we can behave in these ways. We can kind of like excise that chaos that's inside of us. And it allows us to get it out of us. That's what's so hard about being an artist, by the way, because someone comes to town, they put on a concert, we go there, we dress in ways we wouldn't normally dress, we behave in ways we wouldn't normally dress, we eat tacos at 3 a.m. after that, we go home, we sleep, and then the next day we go to work maybe, and what does that artist do? They go on to the next city and they do it all over again. And then they go to the next city and they do it all over again, and all over again, and it's called a tour. And this is one of the reasons that artists burn out, because they're having to constantly be in that chaos, because they're going over, they're surviving it. They've come back and they're telling us about it. And we get to join in there in that chaos for just a little bit, but we don't have to live there. And that's where some people who are particularly self-destructive live. They live in that chaos. And the chaos can be a fun place, not a productive place necessarily, but certainly a fun place to visit sometimes. But there are people who live in chaos. And some of you, I'm sure, know people like this. Everything is a tragedy. Everything is always falling apart around them. They're always having to lean on people and pull on people. And I'm sure you know people. I know a lot of people like this because they don't learn how to deal with that chaos of their minds. And so it's important to figure those things out. Man, if only there was a class that offered something like that, taught you how to fix yourself and how to aim yourself properly at the dreams that you're pursuing, and how to control those emotions and make them productive in some way. I don't know. Maybe if that class even studies some art, that'd be even better. But maybe someday we'll create that class. One day, a man can dream. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Dope. Happy Wednesday.